Despite their innumerable deficiencies, Sword and Shield at their core are still a Pokemon game. That enjoyable Pokemon experience is still in there, somewhere. Dynamax, however, does do its absolute best to tarnish that Pokemon experience at every turn due to its innate lack of balance. But there is still some fun to be had, although I do believe the game would be significantly more fun without Dynamax. With that being said, let's get into the first battle. Alright, so my very first Wi-Fi battle ever. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, so I started off with, I believe, Toxtricity, because I can just click buttons with Toxtricity. And it looks like P-Man decides to lead off with Mr. Rhyme. And he's got that psychic typing, so we gotta get out of there real quick, go into the Hydreigon to resist, or not resist, to be immune to the obvious psychic. So that works out. He dips out, scared of the dark type attack, as he should be, so he switches into Alcremie, who is part fairy, and resists the incoming dark type, so decent play on my opponent's part right there. So I switch out of there and go back into Toxtricity to eat up the obvious incoming fairy type attack, because it's ×4 super effective against Hydreigon. So he switches out yet again and switches into his own Toxtricity, wanting to eat this attack, but he doesn't eat it. Ooh, big damage. And we just give him another one because why not? Nothing on his team could take that attack, so down goes his Toxtricity. We got the friendly fire going. He brings in Mr. Rhyme, and so I decide to click my win button in order to tank the incoming psychic type attack. Yeah, the battles boil down to when you do or don't Dynamax. It's really a really powerful mechanic, especially with 3v3s. So I hit him with that max lightning and he actually survives. To my surprise, Mr. Rhyme has some pretty decent special defense. But my opponent goes for the Freeze Dry, expecting the Hydreigon to come in, but we're smarter than that. And then I hit him up with the Verlicify. Nice and toxic. And we get a nice special attack boost. And down goes Mr. Rhyme. And then he brings back out the Alcremie. He Dynamaxes himself in the hopes that he can take this attack, but Toxtricity with +1, and it stabs, super effective, poison type attack. It's not looking too great for P-Man over here. So he guards to make sure that my Dynamax runs out, so he blocks my Verlicify. And down goes my overpowered Dynamax form. But it doesn't matter because we slap Alcremie in the mouth and down goes the cream monster. Beautiful. And that's game number 1. I win my first Wi-Fi battle. On to game number 2 versus a name that I cannot pronounce. They decide to lead off with Rotom Wash. And we got that young boy Toxtricity. Now we're gonna click that delete button real quick. Bah! Deleted. Completely deleted. Just destroyed. Out comes Frostmoth. I haven't seen this Pokemon too much, but it's actually surprisingly bulky as it just completely eats up that Boom Burst. The Choice Specs Boom Burst. And then it goes for Quiver Dance and increases its speed and special defense. And special attack. So this is actually a really huge mistake. I dropped my load prematurely, and that's never what you want to do. You want to hold on to Dynamax as long as you can, because it's your win button, and if you do it too early or too late, you just lose the game. So I was hoping to, like, the reason I Dynamaxed in the first place was to knock it out, but it barely lived, which is really unfortunate. So the Frostmoth will be able to knock out my Toxtricity and take my Dynamax with me, so even though I'm up a Pokemon with more HP, I'm in a really bad spot. So I go into a Hydreigon just to U-turn. My Hydreigon's Choice Scarfed, so we just U-turn so that I can go into my Excadrill, who has a Focus Sash. But it doesn't matter because my opponent has a Charizard, and yeah, he clicks his win button and we already know what's going to happen, so he's going to click on the Max Flare and bring me down to my Focus Sash. And then he'll just click on Max Skill Stream to get a free speed boost as he takes out my guy. And the Rock Slide won't be able to take him out because Dynamax doubles your HP. So even though rock moves are 4 times super effective against Charizard, it doesn't matter because Charizard has twice the amount of health. So I go for the Rock Slide. It almost takes him out. Even if it brought him low enough to where Solar Power would kill him, but nah. So he goes for Max Skill Stream. Super skillful. I guess that +1. So now he outspeeds my Choice Scarfed Hydreigon. And he also has Solar Power, so it's just, there's no way Hydreigon can take the hit and live. So the reason I lost this is I just blew my Dynamax prematurely. There's just no reason to use it. So yeah, there goes the Hydreigon. So yeah, lesson learned. Make sure you hold on to your Dynamax. We got a third game here for you guys versus yet another name that I cannot pronounce. I find that a lot of people from Asia, I run into a lot of people from Asia as opposed to in North America, but they lead off with Galvantula, so I'm just going to click on the delete button real quick, and he switches out into Lucario, probably expecting not that. Deleted. Crit didn't even matter. Lucario was going to get destroyed regardless. He's probably expecting the poison type attack, but that's not what I went for. And then in comes the dreaded Mimikyu, so I click on my win button because I didn't really have a switch in for this thing. Mimikyu is really annoying because they abuse their disguise ability. They come in, force something out, and then they click on Swords Dance every single time. It's always the same thing. Mimikyu is super annoying. And I actually thought that Mimikyu was weak to poison, but Ghost actually resists poison. It's a weird type combination I don't really normally run into, so I was under the assumption this entire time that poison was super effective against Mimikyu, but it's actually not. So they decide to also click their win button because that's what you do after the disguise is broken and you clicked on Swords Dance. And yeah, so it's a +2 Mimikyu. Mimikyu was slightly nerfed. It loses 1/8 of its health after its disguise breaks, which is a little helpful, but yeah, so it dunks on me, and somehow Toxtricity actually survived a +2 Max Phantasm. I don't really know how, I think. And he had a Life Orb too, so I have no idea how Toxtricity lived that. That was also a misplay on my part, but again, I was under the assumption that poison was super effective against Mimikyu, but it's not, so I was supposed to go for an electric type attack there, but he eventually knocks me out, and there goes my Dynamax. And then next up, I go with Milotic. Yeah, so Milotic is an awesome Pokemon, my second favorite after Toxtricity. And Milotic also eats that without Dynamax. It eats a +2 Life Orb Dynamax hit. And yeah, so I have a rest set up on my Milotic, and Milotic has the Marvel Scale ability, so whenever she's afflicted with a status, she gets +1 defense. So this Mimikyu is technically only at +1 right now. And I skillfully dodge that Play Rough. Feels good. Yeah, so I have +1 defense, and then I can go for Sleep Talk, and I land on the Scald, which is awesome. I have either Scald, Ice Beam, or Rest that I could have gotten there. I got the best one, Scald. Best one out of 3. And this is the weirdest Galvantula set I've ever seen. So he goes for Thunder Wave, I think expecting a switch, but I don't really need to switch, I can just go for Sleep Talk. And we land on Ice Beam this time, so nice little chip damage. And then the Galvantula decides to go for Electro Web, so I guess he's not running Thunder with Compound Eyes. Compound Eyes increases your accuracy, so you have a more accurate Thunder, but I guess, I don't know, this is the weirdest Galvantula set I've ever seen. So the Electro Web wasn't doing too much, and then he goes for the Thunder Wave, which again doesn't really do anything, it just gives me +1 defense, but it doesn't really matter because he's a special attacker. And we just hit him with that Skull, getting that big damage, got some lefty recovery. And that's basically it. Throws another Electro Web, it does basically nothing because Milotic has natural special defense, bulk. And then he eats the Scald and down he goes. And that's game number 3. That'll be all the battles for this video. I'm not entirely sold on the layout quite yet of how I want to go about doing these battles, so any feedback would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, thanks for watching, you guys.